Jesus says, walk this way. Jesus says, put your hands on your head. Jesus says, turn around. Jesus says, follow me. How many of us think that following Jesus is a series of directions, a series of rules to obey? How many of us think that following Jesus means having it all together and having it all figured out? Yeah. What does following Jesus mean to you? This morning's text comes from the very first chapter of the Gospel of Mark. Not much has happened yet, and there is nothing here, absolutely nothing here about rules or tests or having it all figured out in order to follow Jesus. Jesus calls, and these 4 people follow. Probably, scholars say, probably these teenagers knew Jesus. Likely they had encountered him around town. Most probably they believed he was the one Israel had been waiting on for nearly 500 years, the Messiah. If Jesus was the one, then this call to follow was major. Can you imagine being invited into the inner circle of such a one? How exciting, how utterly intoxicating, how absolutely affirming to meet your hero, your idol, your star, and be invited, essentially, to go on tour. No litmus test, no audition, no assessment, no marks to hit, no hoops to jump through. Just follow me, and I will make you fish for people. You might drop everything and go. But is that what it means to follow Jesus? Dropping everything. Because if that's what following is, then the cost is probably too high for most of us. You mean right now? There's a lot of people I need to say goodbye to. If you give me 6 months or a year, I might be ready. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I haven't finished school yet. I've got a project or another show to direct, a chapter to write in my book. But the good news, again, is it is highly unlikely that these young guys left home and never saw their friends and family again. Jesus ministered in a relatively small geographic area, and most likely his band of itinerant followers returned home periodically for a home-cooked meal, change of clothes, much like some of us. So following Jesus certainly can be as dramatic as dropping everything and leaving it behind forever, but it doesn't have to be. So, before you cancel that doctor's appointment and drop out of school, ask yourself, what does it mean for me to follow Jesus? If you realize that your understanding of following Jesus is burdened with rules, laden with hoops, and overloaded with marks to hit, admit that those are self-imposed. Because according to this first chapter of the Gospel of Mark, there are no tests to pass before you follow, no perfection you must attain or rituals you must participate in. Jesus didn't demand that these 4 get baptized or recite particular prayers. Jesus simply says, follow me, and I will make you. I will make you. I will transform you. I will work in you and through you. I will make you fishers of people. I love how following Jesus is like on-the-job training. You can't prepare for this job. You can't really study to be a follower. You just have to follow. No one can really tell you what to expect because it's different for everyone, or what it's going to be like. You just have to follow. Some followers, like Peter, will know things with certainty and great clarity. You, Jesus, are the Son of Man. Some followers will doubt and question and struggle, like Thomas, like me. And some followers, like Judas, will become impatient and try to rush the story forward to a particular ending. And some followers, like those at the end of this gospel, will be terrified and keep everything they know about Jesus to themselves because they're afraid. Following Jesus is like on-the-job training that never ends. We will never be perfect followers, but perfection is not the goal. Following is the goal. Following is the central theme of Mark's gospel. Even Judas, who betrays the Son of Man with a kiss, did not, in my opinion, lose his job to follow. Even though Judas absolutely gave up on the possibility of being a follower with his decision to end his life, Jesus never gave up on him, and Jesus doesn't give up on us. So what does following look like to you? As Elisa said this morning, Middle Church attempts to follow Jesus in a lot of ways, but one of them is our commitment to be a church that feeds people. It's part of a document that we have called Essential Middle, and one of the things it says is Middle Church is a church that feeds people. So after nearly 3 years, and I was writing this late last night, I started tearing up. 3 years we've been out of the business of feeding people through our food pantry. And you probably know that food pantries all over this city and across this nation have gone out of business because of funding cuts. So it's a really powerful thing that this is a church that feeds people. And yeah. And Elisa Joyce has done a ridiculous amount of work to get us ready for today. And many of you have knocked down her door to sign up and lend a hand, and we appreciate that, to offer your wisdom, to be the face of God in this place for those who will come for food. In the wake of all of these closing food pantries, what we are doing together as a community that attempts to follow Jesus is important and powerful. It won't be perfect. We're trying a new system, and we're a little rusty. I personally am a little afraid. Will people show up? Will we have to turn people away because we don't have enough food? But Jesus says, follow me and I will make you the church that feeds people. Follow me and I will make you creative with your resources. Follow me and I will make you fish for people. Some of you may have heard that Marcus Borg died this week. Borg is one of my theological heroes, and if you were at the Leading Edge conference last year, you got a chance to meet him. We were fortunate enough to experience him in this place, on this chancel, sharing his wisdom and his faithfulness. So Dr. Borg shared two powerful thoughts about following Jesus that are both timely and timeless. Following Jesus means radically centering ourselves in the Spirit of God. That's the first thing. Not prayers, not baptism, centering ourselves in God's Spirit. This, Borg says, is at the center of the Christian life. And for this, I believe many of us could imagine dropping everything and leaving our lives behind. To be radically centered in the Spirit of God, I don't know. I think I might just walk out the door if I could get that. And that's what Jesus offered these for on the Sea of Galilee. When you're around a mystic, which is how Borg described Jesus, your ability to center in God and center on God is heightened. You pray better, you meditate better, you are better with that intense level of support around you. It's why perhaps sometimes when we're praying in this community on Sunday morning, it feels a little bit different than when you're just home by yourself and you're like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. I need to do the laundry. But you know, when you're sitting with other people and all that energy is collected together, there's a heightened awareness and intensity. And that's what Jesus offered his followers. It's heady and it's intoxicating. And I imagine many of us could drop everything to follow the Jesus who offered that. But since I don't think Jesus is going to walk in here right now, I mean, he could, but maybe not, then we have to cultivate those spaces that allow us to radically center in God's Spirit. Maybe it's church. Maybe it's church. Maybe it's the music here, but it could be the music somewhere else. Maybe it's nature. Maybe it's working in the food pantry this afternoon. But this centering is a must, and it must be at the center of lives of faith. So Borg goes on to share that centering in God's Spirit does something to us. It transforms us, it animates us into what he says is the second behavior, living a life of compassion and passion for justice. If we follow Jesus, if we center ourselves in God's Spirit and nothing shifts, if we center ourselves in God and nothing comes alive in us, if the center of our lives is Spirit, then compassion and justice must follow. There's no choice. We will see with God's eyes, we'll hear with God's ears, we'll love with God's heart. Our lives are on-the-job training for following in the footsteps of this rabbi that we love. We center ourselves. We want justice for God's people, and we offer compassion for God's people. Compassion. In both the Hebrew and the Aramaic, the word for compassion is related to the word for womb. Let us all just put our hands where the womb is, and if we don't have one, where we imagine the womb would be if we had a womb. And let's just breathe into that. There's something really powerful about that place. And you know, guys, it's your guts, you know, it's your entrails. It's where if you sing, your voice teacher will say, you know, sing from there. You know, it's deep down. It's in your gonads, you know. There, I'm just saying, I'm trying to say it without saying it, but it's like, you know, where your legs come together, right there. The womb, deep down. So, Borg says that following Jesus requires us to move from that place, that womb-like place. It's life-giving, it's nurturing, it's tender. And that's the soft side of loving something that you give birth to. But there's also a protective, passionate, fierce side, right? You better not even think about laying a hand on this thing that I've given birth to, right? Whether that's a child or an idea or a new way of being. And that also comes from deep down in the womb place. So, come, follow me. And I will make you fish for people. I will make you live from the womb-like place. Center in me, and you will care about my people the way you care about things you give birth to. Center in me, and you will protect my people the way you protect the things you love and the things you give birth to. You can't hang out with Jesus and not be transformed. You can't follow Jesus and not long to transform yourself and transform his world. Jesus calls followers, and he gets the doubting disciples. They misunderstand him, they fail him, they flee from his side. Jesus calls followers, and he gets us. I know. But thanks be to God, Jesus never gives up on us. Let us not give up on our following. To God be the glory. Amen.